Hey guys, it's Ezel by Craft Vanguard. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. And this time today we are covering Keter Sanctuary Ezel for DZ set 9. So, you know, my namesake, my favorite unit of all the game. To be more specific, Platina Ezel. I mean, to be fair, Incandescent Line Blond was my favorite, but I love Platina Ezel the most of all the Evos. And Platina Ezel being brought back into D, a lot of people had very specific hopes for him, which a lot of people did not get, and a lot of people think Platina Ezel is very underwhelming, and from a competitive point, I do see it, but I also think that it has the potential to be good if you find the right build for it. Is this the build for it? No, but the personal build I have in the background that I use every now and again on camera, and by every now and again I mean specifically once on camera, then yeah, it's possible, but it's not this build. This is the build that I use specifically for YouTube videos, so let's go ahead and show this off and see what we got here. First today we have our generator. You may only have ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you win second to energy charge 3, continuous spend a 10 energy, auto begin ride face energy charge 3, and after 1 per turn, energy plus 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you win second, you get extra 3 on top of that. And if you have 7 or more energy at once, you can energy blast 7 of them to draw. There is a card in this deck that does cost energy to basically do kind of the same thing, and there's another card in this deck that costs energy to get multi-attack. You will never use the second one, and you will rarely use the first one, so you can always feel free to energy blast 7 to draw cards, what I'm getting at here. Moving on to our starter, we have the lovely Crimson Lion Cub Criff, who actually, in my personal build, I don't actually use Criff as my starter. That kind of point blank tells you how my personal build kind of pans out. Great Zone boost, 5k shield, 6k base, honorable power second draw card, standard starter, and a pleasure free draw if you go second. You do actually have to make this your starter if you want to use Bowman's skill, because Bowman does require Criff, so take that as you will. One of in the right deck of Criff. Moving on, we have our Overtrigger and the True Arbitrator Dragons of 100 Swords Duravassal. Great Zone boost, 50k shield, 5k base, Overtrigger, you have Overtrigger in your deck. Reveal it as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose a music plus 1 million for the turn, and if it during a jet check, activate its Justify, which at the end of turn you can also perform jet checks as the battles your rear guard attack. All pretty solid because whether you drive checks or damage check, this someone gets a million and you get a draw. But also if you drove check it, you get rear guard drive checks for the rest of the turn, which is good because thanks to Platina Ezel's skill, you're never going to do this, but if you want to, you can call 2 grade 3s to the rear guard, and then you can then proceed to give them the ability to do drive checks. You get a total of 6 drive checks that turn. More likely than not, you're going to get a total of 4 to maybe 5 drive checks in a turn, so still pretty solid. You can make this vulnerable for more consistent multi-attacking, or as Fourier for crit pressure and recycling, or even the Dark Reserve for healing and calling, but that doesn't really help you for more multi-attacking, so I would say either between this or Volna for your Overtrigger. Moving on to our normal triggers, we have a total of 3 copies of Bard of Heavenly Song, all packed for our front. Great Zone boost, 15k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 guard at 5,000 to shield. So she's a 20k shield. In my original Ezel build, I had 4 fronts in because I thought it'd be more useful for the multi-attack aspect. That was the idea, and it is still true to this day, but apparently when I run 4 copies of an all pack, I see none of them or only 1 of them per game. But when I tech it down to 3, for some reason all 3 copies come out whenever I need them to. So yeah, I've just decided 3 is the magic number here and chose to run all pack at 3, because at least I'll actually see it consistently. Then with that math, we of course have 8 crit, 4 of them being out of Heavenly Hammer Gargant, Great Zone boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can any crit you want. I chose to make it Gargant because when I built that Ezel deck, I specifically copied it from Bastion at the time. So Bastion had these triggers in it, so that's why it has this. So 8 crit, 4 of them being Gargant, the other 4 being Blade Feather Dragon, Guard Zone boost, 50k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard, the other boosted, shove it to soul, choose a unit, give it 2k for the turn. I do recommend you run Blade Feather. You can make this of another crit, but I choose Blade Feather because it helps to get you soul, and you do have some cards in the deck that do use soul, like Ezel's Superior Call ability, Dindrain's countercharge ability, which can be really useful, especially if you're spamming CB 24/7. So I do recommend you run Blade Feather just in case, and again, you can Superior Call out via Ezel and then send it to soul in that same battle phase. You don't have to call it out from hand. And then 4 cards of Healer of Heavenly Staff Arshes, Great Zone boost, 50k shield, 5k base. She's a nice heal. Again, you can make this who you want. I chose to make it Arshes because it was in the same deck that I pulled Gargant from, so there you go. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 3 copies of Inflame line. So Great One boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I love how it just has like Keter Sanctuary in the background, because typically with cards like these, you don't see Keter in the background, or not well, or at least recently we've been seeing more and more of Keter. Anyways, auto back or rear guard circle, when your unit is placed on another rear guard circle in the same column as it during your battle phase, your vanguard only has 1 clan on it, regardless if it's Genesis, Gold, Royal, Shadow, whatever. Energy blast 2 standard. That's not a bad skill because it allows you to get an extra booster and it's not a once per turn. The thing is, Dindrain is better because Dindrain opens up circles, therefore you can superior call stuff to the thing in front of it, but then B, Dindrain also stands for free and doesn't cost 2 energy, but this is pretty much backup Dindrain in case you don't hit a Dindrain, because there are games where you're going to whiff it because statistically that is possible, and to be fair, the card that this thing did replace was another version of backup Dindrain, so valid. Then auto rear guard, then every turn turn, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade Ezel and your unit was placed from deck this turn, whether it was this unit or another unit, you may put this unit to soul. So cool. It's another way to get soul, which is great. Our Inflame line is a very good grade 1. You can make this whatever you want. I just chose to make Inflame line to have an extra Din Drain, and it is an extra soul charger as well, so 3 for me. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Silverfang Witch. This is a really good grade 1. So grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base. Auto when placed on your Rearguard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade with only gold paladin for the clan, she'll get 5,000 power for the turn, and you can counter boss one to draw a card. So whether she's placed from hand, placed from deck, superior called, or normal called, as long as your Vanguard's a gold paladin and is grade 3 or greater, CB1, you get a draw, but she'll also just get 5k for free. So 13k is good for all around attacking and or just being a booster in general, but also getting you hand cards is nice. And with Din Drain being able to counter charge, you can afford to use that CB skill really often as long as you spam all your soul charges. That way you're constantly getting the max out of your skills. All around, she's a very great girl to have. And in my personal build with the Ezel deck, where I think I also run her at 4, I bare minimum run her at 3, but I think I run her at 4. I've learned how to like combo her with Din Drain really effectively. So 4 of Silverfang Witch, very good grade 1. Like the increase of hand cards, like this, she's always like 13k base guarantee once you hit grade 3. So very solid grade 1 for me to run in the deck. And she like hard carries in long games, especially when you get to the very end and you just need to like start calling units from deck that can do anything. Her being at 13k is really helpful in those situations. So 4 of. And then we have 4 copies of straight up the MVP of this deck that isn't Ezel. Listener of Truth and Drain, grade 1 boost 5k shield, aka base. Auto when placed on Rearguard circle if your Vanguard has only one clan. Again, it can be Royals, Gold, Shadows, Genesis, whatever. Soul Blast 2, counter charge 1. So the issue with this is that it does cost 2 soul, and you always use, or in my opinion, you always want to use a soul in Ezel. And the reason why I say in my opinion is because technically you don't need to always spam out Ezel skill, but I like using Ezel skill because in my opinion, in the situation where you're using Ezel skill, you have to have 3 or less units, which already counts himself, and 2 other rear guards. So you're in a situation where you have to quote unquote come from behind, which is why I built my personal Ezel deck to specifically put me in that situation a lot. But I digress on that point. But point is, like, I always want to use the Soul Blast skill. That Soul Blast 2 can be a little bit iffy. So being able to have cards that go to Soul, such as Inflame Lion and Blade Feather as well, help mitigate for that. And anyways, the second skill is auto rear guard about the boosted. If you have a Vanguard as on the card name, put one of your other rear guards and combat to the bottom of the deck. Standard. So cool, regardless of how great the opponent's Vanguard's at, this is your way to recycle your rear guards on the bottom, so your opponent wants to board nuke them, or if they want to lock them, your opponent can't do that to the front row at least. And Din Drain will be able to restand, so that way if you are using Vanguard's multi-attack skill, you can then call them to open rear guard circles because Din Drain just made them open rear guard circles. All around, very solid grade 1 to have. She gets you resources back in the form of CB, even if she is a little bit heavy on the Soul Blast cost, and she allows you to get normal units back into your deck, or not just normal units, but units in general, so she can send back triggers, because that's what I did with her one time. I sent back an Over and a Heal, and then they pulled up in my drive check literally the next turn, which was fun. But being able to cycle back anything is great, and then also get extra boosters out of it as well makes her a very solid 4 of, and she's like the MVP of this deck. And then our last grade 1 of the deck that isn't a part of the ride deck is 4 copies of Paladinium Zeo Dragon, grade 1 boost, 0 soul, 6k base, continuous settle, 4 settles in deck, and it's put on guard circle. Choose a units, it cannot be hit to the bottom. If you can stream or cards, you choose a card from hand, it's guard, standard PG, nothing to special. It basically means if this is only one of the cards that you can we place on guard circle, you don't have to discard. Great, because that means to be super aggressive in the early game. You can spam Silverfang, which is to get an 8k swing out of the Vanguard, but typically you don't start swinging until your grade 3 turn, which to be fair is your second turn of the game. And then your opponent does eventually counterattack you, Paladinium Zeo Dragon, middle finger, you're good to go. All around, very solid PG to have. I do like having Paladinium Zeo Dragon in this deck. You can make this any PG you want. You can make it Aegis Meyer Dragon or Keflon. I chose to make it Paladinium Zeo Dragon though, because it came out close to the time of Ezel's release. Technically speaking, that would be Keflon, but I like to consider it closer to the time of release as long as that PG was released beforehand. So in that case, it would be Paladinium Zeo. And true, our last grade 1 in the deck, though, one of in the red deck, none in the main deck. Knight of Elegant skills Gareth, grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base, auto run Rotopalm by Knight of Superior skills Bowman, search out for 1, Reign Supreme, King of Beasts, reveal a prayer to hand shelf your deck. So this is your way to get your order for free, which is nice. And then continues rear guard during turn for Vanguards and Ezel in the card name, gets 2,000 power. So it's a 10k base. If you want to run in the main deck, there you go. But like we have better main deck targets because again, Din Drain gets you resources and multi-attack boosting. Silverfang, which is just a 13k swinger or booster, which basically does Gareth's job a better. And Inflame is backup Din Drain. So yeah, you have no real reason running this in the main deck, so one of them in the right deck of Gareth. Moving on to our grade 2s, 3 copies of Slash Feather Dragon, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, contains your Vanguards or grade 3 Gareth Ezel in the card name. This unit gets all the following. Auto when placed on rear guard circle, counter boss 1, perform either draw a card or choose an Incandescent Lion Blond Ezel on your Vanguard circle, and its drive becomes 2 for the turn. So not a bad skill, because if you want to spend that CB, you either get a hand card out of it, which you would do every single turn outside of your first grade 3 turn, because your first grade 3 turn, Ezel is going to be a single drive thanks to Bowman's skill, which you would then use your CB to make the Vanguard twin drive. So at least you can aggro your opponent down decently well on your grade 2 turn, which is nice, or what is supposed to be your grade 2 turn. As for the second skill, is auto rear guard. When attacks into a grade 3 unit, if you manage, you can get 5,000 power for the battle, and if you do at the end of that battle, shove it to bottom and energy box to draw a card. are pretty solid because it's a 15k swing for free as long as it's attacking to a grade 3, regardless if it's a Vanguard or a rear guard. But at the end of that battle, it at least gets you a guaranteed open rear guard circle. So if you don't have a Din Drain on board, it's fine. Just call it to a column that doesn't have a Din Drain and you'll be good. But then you can also energy box 3 to draw a card to help increase your hand. All around, very solid. Gets hand cards in 2 different ways. It's a 15k swinger that can bot deck itself, and it can possibly even give the Vanguard twin drive base, which is nice. So 3 of, you don't want to see it too often because after the first grade 3 turn, it's not really that useful in my opinion, but it's a solid 3 of in case you want it. Then we have 4 copies of the thing that basically is this but better, and that is Knight of Insightful Eye Azatlas. So grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto rear guard, when it attacks into anything, if your Vanguards and Ezel perform one of the following: choose up to one of your Vanguards and it gets continuous Vanguard. All your former rear guards get 5,000 power until end of turn, and if you chose, put these into bottom deck at the end of the battle. That ability stacks, by the way, so if you have 2 of them on your board and you swing with them both, it gives the Vanguard 2 separate continuous Vanguard red tech skills that both give the front row 5k, which means both of them would stack and the 2 front row rear guards would always get 10k. And if you're me and you pull that off 3 times at one point, your front row would get plus 15k outside of the Vanguard, which is pretty solid. And then the other skills: choose a back row rear guards, only gold power for his clan, return to the hand at the end of the battle. That skill is really niche. You only use it if your opponent's playing a board new deck and you're trying to return stuff like Din Drain back to your hand or Silverfang Witch to get hand cards. Otherwise, you're typically only using the first skill to end up getting numbers. It's great that can proc off regardless of a grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, so if you want to bully down your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, you can. But again, since you're probably only going to do that during your turn where your opponent's at grade 3, so you can proc up Ezel's full ability, that's where Slash Feather comes in, where Slash Feather you play before your opponent's at grade 3. After that, you spam Atlas like it's 24/7. So 4 of him, very good grade 2. Both of his skills proc for free. One can get you a card back to your hand in case your opponent plays a board new deck, and the other one gives multiple units in the front row 5k to allow your multi-attack to hit even harder, so 4 of. As for our last grade 2 in the deck, 1 of in the ride deck, 3 of it, 2 of in the main deck, and that is Knight of Superior Skills Bowman. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Act Vanguard once per turn. If your soul has Knight of Elegant Skills Gareth and Crimson Light Cup Crypt in it, by ditching a card from your hand, choose up to 1 Incandescent Lion Blond Ezel from the ride deck and ride it as stand, and it gets -1 drive for the turn. So pretty much superior ride Ezel. The best part is, regardless of a grade either player is at, that can proc off. So if your opponent's at grade 1, you're at grade 3 while they're at grade 1 for a few turns. The downside is, if you don't ride Platina, you're essentially on a vanilla for 2 turns straight. And even if you do ride Platina, you only get half a Platina skill until your opponent gets to grade 3. But still pretty solid that you can skip to grade 3 while your opponent's at grade 1. Then auto rear guard, when attacks into anything, if your Vanguard's an Ezel, you may have this, you get 5,000 power for the battle. And if you do at the end of the battle, put it to bottom deck. So it's another free 15k swinger, and it can bot deck itself. You can make the main deck copies of this anything you want. I chose to make it Bowman to have like extra versions of Azatlas and Slash Feather essentially, just in case you can't have Din Drain, because the whole point of the deck is to multi-attack as much as possible with Ezel, but the issue is you have to have open rear guard circles for that, so I'm trying to increase my chances of having that as much as physically possible. In case I whip, that's where the extra 2 copies of this come in, but if you want to make this a different unit, you can, but it's nice to have it in the ride deck for superior ride. I say that, but in my personal build, I use a completely different ride line because I don't like being on a vanilla for a few turns. On to our grade 3s, we have 4 copies of a really good order in the form of Reign Supreme King of Beasts. Grade 3 normal order, play this if your Vanguard's in Ezel. Check the top 7, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less unit card from among them, call it to rear guard circle, and it gets 5,000 power of the turn, shuffle the deck. So cool, literally no cost at all, just the Vanguard has to be an Ezel. Check top 7, get something, give it 5k, so you get an extra rear guard on the board for literally no cost at all. I do like how Platina makes this card more useful because Ezel was released at the same time as Maelstrom and Vermilion, and the issue I had with Ezel in terms of the orders, because all 3 of them used orders, was that Ezel wasn't the one that used his order effectively. All of them had grade 1s that could search their orders. The difference was Vermilion could replay it from drop zone, and it was very integral to his playstyle as the main grade 3 even had an ability that required the order. Maelstrom didn't require the order, but the order definitely helped it, and it, like, a lot of the deck did actually want the order to be played, while Ezel, pretty much, you didn't really need the order, and Gareth randomly searched it because XYZ. But thankfully, Platina makes it more useful, so being able to get a free rearguard column 5k is great, and I like how it has a more integral part into the deck now, so 4 of. As for our, of course, the guy I was just talking about, Blazing Lion, Platina, Ezel, the evolution of Ezel, the Shining Rebirth, grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base, continuous Vanguard Circle. If your soul has Incandescent Lion, Blond, Ezel in it, this unit gets all their continuous abilities and all their auto abilities, and it gets 2,000 power after one player's turn. So it gets Ezel's multi-attack ability, Ezel's skill to superior call stuff at the start of the ride phase, and Ezel's skill to make it so that you can't ride anything but an Ezel, but albeit the point digresses. But cool, that's a way to basically get itself a 15k base as well, which actually works out really well in guarding because that ability saved me so much. Then act Vanguard once per turn, counterboss 1, or put a grade 3 or greater card Ezel's card from your rear guard into soul. It could be itself, or it could be OG Ezel. Choose a Reign Supreme King of Beasts from your drop zone, put it to your hand, and this unit gets 5,000 power for the turn. And your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, perform all the following. This unit gets continuous Vanguard, all your front rear get 5,000 power for the turn. So basically another uses of Exaltus for free, which is pretty solid. And if your damsel has 4 more cards in it, it gets critical for the turn. So So if you hit limit break, he's at double crit, and your front and rear guards get 5k. And I'm glad he also gives himself power as well, because otherwise it'd just be the rear guards getting power. So I'm glad that he will always be an 18k or 20k possibly, regardless of where grade the opponent's vanguards at, as long as you got the ability to get the order back into your hand, which is good. But again, if your opponent's at grade 3 or greater, extra crit, rear guards get 5k. It's a very solid grade 3 in my opinion. At the time that this thing came out, no, it's not. If it came out earlier, like around the time OG Ezel came out, I feel like it probably could have done decently well. But now the fact that you have to wait till like turn 4, turn 5, even to like actually use this effectively because of the superior ride, it kind of hurts. That's why I argue that Bowman kind of F's over the deck, because you're forced to wait a few turns to do things because you can't proc off any abilities to your opponent's vanguards at grade 3. But at least this can do something. If you want to, you can run Platina in the ride deck, because you know you could just send an Ezel to soul from rear guard circle and then you get the ability, which is kind of hard to pull off. But I think there are enough generic cards in Keter that can pull it off effectively easily, so you can use that ability. I think there's a card that straight up searches different grade or different named vanguards of the same grade, so there's that. Either way though, being able to get the front row 5k is great, because typically the weakness with Exaltus is that the first swing is always going to be the weakest, so being able to increase their power a little bit is good. Again, extra crit pressure is nice, and then also being able to recycle the order for either a CB or just a free soul is good, and 15k base has saved me a lot, and so is the ability to gain its extra skills. So I like that this evolution feels better in terms of actually what it does compared to the Maelstrom one and Vermilion, because Maelstrom and Vermilion pretty much just copy pasted the other guy's skills. Platina Ezel is a direct copy and paste of their skills, but they only did it in one skill, meaning they had more liberation with card tech. So I like how they did that. So 4 of Platina Ezel in the main deck, but if you want to put in the ride deck, you very much could, but I wouldn't suggest using the Bowman line then, because obviously you wouldn't be able to superior ride. Moving on to our last card in the deck, 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of Incandescent Lion, Blond Ezel, my avatar, Tasagari no Boku no Bushin. Grade 3 to 9% 13k base. Contains Vanguard. You can only ride cards with Ezel in their card name. Auto Vanguard, beginning of your ride phase if you have 3 or less units, including itself. Soul Boss 1, check the top 3, choose up to 1 grade 3 unit card from bundle, call to open rear guard circle and put it to bottom at the rest. So pretty much it's your way to get extra rear guards, which is nice, and only costs 1 soul. But again, you have to have 3 or less units, including itself, so itself and maybe 2 Jinjin on the side, that's 3. Then Auto Vanguard, when these 2 attacks into a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. Counter Boss 1, check the top 7, choose up to 2 grade 3 or less unit cards from among them, call them both to open rear guard circles, as you get 10,000 power for the turn, shuffle the deck. So upside, regardless if you call something or not, he's a 23k swinger. Downside, that ability only procs up when your opponent's at grade 3, and you can only call stuff to open rear guard circle. So if by some unfortunate miracle of God you whiff all of your cards that can send stuff to bottom, then you're kind of screwed in terms of the multi-attack range there, but that's why we have so many of them that can send stuff to bottom of deck. And again, you can call them to open rear guard circles. The worst case scenario, if you have to call them to back row, it's not the end of the world, but it's a good thing that he at least gets 10k, to where if you do have to do that, it's not an entirely bad thing. At least there's some benefit out of it. He is a very solid grade 3 all around, because he does get you multi-attack pretty easily, and he does get extra numbers, but the fact that he's basically not going to do anything if offensively until your opponent hits grade 3 really sucks. But that's where Platina comes in, and Platina can at least balance it out a little bit with extra power, and at least allowing you to spam out Reign as Supreme King of Beasts 24/7. That way you can constantly recycle boards even if your opponent manages to board nuke you. So there you go. So in my opinion, he's a very solid 2 to have in the main deck and 1 of in the ride deck. It's good that he kind of like takes more of a backseat now, even though it feels kind of iffy for that. And that's it for this one. I hope all of you guys enjoyed. This is honestly a very fun deck to play. Again, I say I agree with the idea that from a competitive standpoint, Platina Ezel is not that good. I feel like there is definitely a build out there where you can use Platina Ezel effectively. I just feel like you would have to put it in the ride deck. And for those of you that's saying that it would make it inconsistent, because then you would have to try to pull Incandescent Lion, Blond Ezel. For the record, you're in that same situation anyways, where you have to try to pull Platina Ezel, and it's just as easy to get Ezel regular into hand than it is to get Platina into hand. So just going to make that point clear now for anyone that has that argument. But either way though, it's a nice deck to play, and if you want to try it out this way, you definitely can. But personally, if you want to try out the build within the ride deck, I suggest making your ride deck something like Kirk can be whatever the hell you want, and then make Gareth and Bowman into the Sodius and Tranquil from OG Alden, and then fuck around a little bit with the ratios, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get your good stuff there. But either way though, I'm just want to hear hope all of you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, don't forget. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your vanguards.